Head now and meet our third speaker of the evening. Sophie Hollington is an artist and illustrator whose unique work has been commissioned by everyone from The New Yorker to The Wall Street Journal to Wired and Penguin, to name just a few. Her work mostly takes the form of relief prints, a historic yet laborious process created using lino cutting. Sophie was recently asked by the New York Times Magazine to create a cover for an issue inspired by Boccaccio's Decameron. That novella was written in the aftermath of the Black Death in the 14th century and was a way for the author to process the fear and grief of the epidemic. So no points for spotting the link there. Tonight, Sophie's going to delve into this timely brief and how she approached that challenge. So Sophie, please turn on your audio and video when you can. Hi there.
Hello, hi.
How's it going?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Fantastic. Yeah, really good. How long did that take, that Decameron project? That must have been an epic undertaking.
Was rather, yeah, it was about 3 weeks, start to finish, and a lot to cram in.
Amazing. Well, really excited to hear a bit more about that. So I'll let you kind of share your screen and present. And everyone else, again, if you have any questions for Sophie, please pop them in the chat, and yeah, we'll do our best to get around to them afterwards.
Apologies.
That's all right.
Okay. Can you see
Amazing.
it? Okay.
You can see the hello. Yeah.
Perfect.
I'll leave you to it.
Okay, hello. Yeah, my name's Sophie Hollington. An artist and an illustrator. Sorry, I've got a mouse going all over the place. So yeah, this is my work. I mainly use lino, like Matt said. So all the black that you see in this example is a lino cut. If you're not familiar with it, this is what it is. It's basically compressed cork dust and linseed oil, which is put onto this kind of Hessian back to form these sheets. You can get them in any size, and you use these kind of carving tools to carve away to create a relief print. So this is an example of some of my work. So what you're carving away is the negative in the image, which is the white of the paper, and then you use a roller to roll over what you've left behind, which is the positive. You put a piece of paper, stick that on top of the block, press it down. You can use a press, but I like to use a wooden spoon to touch every single part of that block where it's touching the paper to create print. This is actually 2 blocks which I've stitched together because it was a little bit too sort of detailed for me to do just in one, and then scan that in. And I colour it digitally. This is just a kind of for economy, basically, because often I'm working commercially and I've got tight deadlines. So to do loads of different blocks of different colours would just be a bit too much for me to kind of take on. But it also lets me kind of change the colours and do all those sorts of things. So yeah, this was a book cover that came out just last week. I'm quite lucky in that I get to apply my work to all different kinds of briefs. I come from all over the place. I do quite a lot of editorial stuff for sort of the New Yorker, New York Times, Bloomberg, Business Week, lots of American publications, funnily. But then I also do kind of commercial projects for sort of brands. This was a skateboard design, and then sort of more publishing stuff, so book covers. This was a really cool one because it was foil blocked, so it's kind of like doubling up a processes there, and there was a kind of metallic foil. And then I also get to do lots of stuff for music, kind of album covers and posters. And these are some of my favourite briefs because they're often kind of the most open in terms of kind of themes, what you can explore. I'm really inspired by folklore and mysticism and kind of the arcane, I guess, which lends itself to the kind of the process that I'm using, but then I try and combine this with a kind of more kind of eye-popping psychedelic or kind of modernist sensibilities, so that I'm not just kind of retreading you know, the past. Yeah, and a really important project for me the last couple of years is this one. It's a tarot deck that I did with a writer called David Keenan. We created 30 tarot cards, the kind of whole major arcana basically, and then 2 each of the suit cards even. And it was published by Rough Trade Books. We made a proper deck. And that's basically, I think, what kind of sent me down this slightly sort of esoteric route kind of over the last few years. I've sort of explored more with other things. Another really big part of my work is typography, which I wasn't kind of initially drawn to, like when I was at university or anything like that. I didn't really go into that, but it's something that's happened just from doing posters and kind of album covers and having to do type, and the lino really lends itself to that. The kind of the letter forms just seem to kind of appear, and I don't have to work very hard to sort of to make something that feels really kind of cohesive. Which leads me to this project, which is what I'm going to talk about for the rest of the time. So this was the New York Times Magazine. They did a special issue back in July called the Decameron Project, which, like Matt said, it was an ode to a book which was written in the 1300s by this Italian guy who escaped Florence and the Black Death to the Tuscan hills with a group of his sort of young friends. I think they were all in their early 20s. And they just told each other stories to pass the time that were all kind of, you know, about the themes of what they were dealing with at the time of the pandemic. And that's what this issue is. It's 30 different writers, wrote 30 different works of fiction that kind of dealt with COVID and the lockdown and what we were all kind of living through at that time, and the whole world was kind of locked away. And the magazine had never done anything like this before. They'd never devoted a whole issue to something so completely. So they asked me to come and sort of try and unify the whole project, basically. And they kind of needed something that was going to kind of umbrella it all. So yeah, this is my cover. This is the introduction. I've already explained what the Decameron is, so I won't tell you again. And yeah, so this was a couple of pages, a couple of book plates from the original. So yeah, when I was first contacted, I was sent this this PDF. I thought maybe you'd like to see sort of the whole kind of job from beginning to finish. This is kind of a pacing kind of example, so I can see exactly how much work that they were asking me to do, which was a lot. So I had 3 weeks to do. I had to do a cover, a table of contents, an introduction, all the titles, all the kind of the text for each story, kind of these little ornaments, and then all the spot illustrations as well. And they put together these kind of mock-ups using work that I'd already done, which is quite sweet, so I could kind of see exactly what they had in mind. So I had to get stuck straight in with kind of sketching. My feet didn't really touch the ground. These are the sketches for my spots. I use an iPad for all my sketches. It's the kind of one sort of like non-Luddite digital thing that I have. And it's just a really good way for me to kind of show you know, a client exactly what a lino cut is gonna look like, instead of just doing pencil sketches where they can't see what's going to be black and what's going to be white. And then this is a sketch for the cover. I had to put 5 different stories on the cover, and no one of them could take precedence. So this kind of format with the diamonds kind of made sense to kind of just space it out, and they could kind of bleed into each other a little bit, sort of kind of interact slightly, like these are two kind of parallel universes. We messed around a bit with maybe doing colour, but then just decided to go with the straight up black and white print, which was really cool actually, because most of my clients like to use colour. But there's something very nice about just keeping the integrity of the original lino. It's a bunch of my sketches for the titles. I have lots of kind of different things going on. We have these little kind of glyphs, like spaces. And then that's the table of contents. We had 2 of those, and the sketch for the intro, which you've seen. So once I've signed off all of those sketches, I have to make sure that everything is completely signed off before I start any carving. I kind of got into this mammoth carving session, which took a long time. So this is the kind of whole process of me carving the cover. I use this carbon paper to transfer the sketch, which I just print out on an inkjet printer, onto the lino, like this. And then you can see kind of the carving process. Takes about 5 or 6 hours to carve a sheet this big. This is slightly bigger than A4, and with this much detail. I get a lot of these little bits just all over my floor. My whole Hoover is full of them. And then when it was done, I can print it up, and then that's my print. You've noticed that it's the wrong way around, so I always carve the right way around, which then makes a print that's the wrong way around, which is like a big no-no in kind of printmaking. But it's just easier for me, and I know that this isn't going to exist as a print. You know, I'm going to scan it in and just flip it, so it just kind of makes sense for me to do it that way. And that gap at the top was because I couldn't fit in the masthead. So I had to carve that separately. When amazing that they let me attack their masthead like I did. So I got to kind of change it a little bit, put these little kind of wobbly edges on things to make it kind of sit with my work. And there's the finished thing. A couple more of the blocks. These were the titles. I think there are more of those, but I just quite liked how they printed, like the actual prints, how they're all kind of stacked like that. I had to cut them all out, but I just thought they looked quite cool as images. And then this is the finished mag. Bit of a flick through. Always kind of interesting to see what adverts your work is going to be printed next to. I really liked as well this project how my work was kind of surrounding and kind of next to kind of all these other artists' work, and a really kind of brave choice I thought of the art directors to choose an illustrator to do this job, rather than, you know, just going with a sort of graphic design led approach, which probably would have been easier. Another really cool thing about the project was that they made a kind of special website experience. So if you didn't see the issue, you could go online, and when you hovered over these cards, they would flip over like tarot cards to reveal the illustrations. And then when you clicked on them, you would get these kind of pages, and you could kind of read it like a book, which I thought was a very tactile, sort of sympathetic approach to the web experience. And then finally, and amazingly, a few months ago, I got another email saying a hardback book containing all of the stories was going to be published by Simon & Schuster, and I got to do the cover for that as well. So this time it was a kind of just an all-encompassing illustration that kind of summed up the whole project as this sort of escape into fiction from the kind of virus apocalypse we were all experiencing. And that's it. Thank you.
Wow, Sophie, what an amazing project that is. That's incredible.
Thank you.
And 3 weeks as well. That's just
I know. It was a lot.
Fantastic. Well, we've got a few questions actually from the audience, which is brilliant. The first one is something you touched on, but yeah, again, like great to hear your thoughts again. But what advantages are there to working with analog over digital illustration? It's interesting that you then scan it in and flip it and things like that. So what's the kind of, the advantage of working with something analog in the start?
I would say, interestingly, that I actually often end up doing a lot less dilly-dallying than a lot of other illustrators. I share a studio with a bunch of other illustrators who all work sort of, a lot of them work digitally. And I find that because I have to make these, these commitments to what I'm doing, and then the client has to also make the commitments to what I'm doing, that we kind of, the whole process ends up being quite seamless, because everyone's sort of like, they know they can't change their minds, I suppose, once it's done. So I really like that. I'm not kind of one of those people that has to do loads of different versions of things. I know some people struggle with.
Very interesting. Yeah, I guess that was what Tracy was saying at the beginning as well. Yeah, lots of different versions of 40 different versions of a cover.
I found that horrifying.
Exactly. Someone else asks, how do you deal with the slip of the hand? And I guess that touches on something really interesting about your work, which is that it is a kind of imprecise art, I guess, that there are presumably little slips every now and then, as perfect as you presumably want it to be. But so how do you kind of deal with those little moments?
You know what, it's never a huge problem. If there's like a very small little nick or something, I'll often keep it in, because it's, in this day and age when everyone's making work digitally, it's like, that's the stuff that's charming. I've learned that now, actually. I used to kind of like, cover up absolutely everything with a stencil and make sure that it was absolutely perfect, but now I know that that's actually what I have to offer, right. And then, but if something's really like a nightmare, then I can just scan it in and fix it. So because like I say, the end result is so rarely the actual print itself. It's actually just a JPEG.
Fantastic. And finally, there's a question. I guess we looked at your style there, and it is so unique and so characteristic. I think everyone can recognize Sophie Hollington when they see it now. But how did you discover that technique and decide that that's kind of the style that suits your work best?
God, I mean, it was a friend of mine who I shared a flat with, just gave me my first sheet of lino, and I made a lino cut comic as part of my kind of final degree project, but it wasn't even like the big part of it. It was like this little extra thing that I did. But then I got my first ever job after leaving uni, was a cover for the New York Times Sunday Review section, which was just wild. And they just said, they were like, we want you to do a lino cut, because they'd seen this comic. And so I guess it's just, even though I didn't settle in on lino straight away, I had another 5 years where I was kind of trying my hand at other things because I found it so kind of tedious and difficult. I was given that confidence from that first commission, and I kind of knew that there was something there, and then I just kept falling back to it, and I just know that the strongest work I was making was with lino, so kept going.
Fantastic. Maybe one final question, because it feeds on from that, is just, I guess with that, how do you kind of keep finding new angles to that style? How do you keep re-inspiring yourself and reinventing that style? Because I guess there are some constrictions to it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But then I guess that the good thing about it is that I'm not hindered by themes. You know, I'm not that person that always draws cats or something like that. You know, I think the nice thing about it is that it's my voice, and then what I'm able then to do is explore tons and tons of different kinds of themes. And I guess at the moment, you know, like I said, I've gone down this kind of slightly esoteric sort of route, but I still feel that I could explore other things, and that it would still be me if I chose to kind of do something else.
Awesome. Well, listen, Sophie, thanks so much for that. That was absolutely amazing, and yeah, amazing to see that project and all of its complexity. Yeah, you can turn your audio and video off now,
Cool.
but
Thanks.
appreciate you joining. Thanks so much.